And we are live on Facebook.
Okay, but
We're live right now.
I don't see it.
I see it.
There.
Folks, if you're just joining us right now, Eric Cohen, Nancy Kelly, we're just making sure that we're seeing ourselves on the screen.
How do I make it? Okay, I have to make the.
So,
There we go.
folks, welcome to Timeout. If you are, are you seeing the comment section?
I do.
Okay, no comments as of yet, so it might just be
Okay.
you and I for the whole hour. Might just be you.
It won't be. Don't worry, it won't be.
Anyway, Miss Kelly, how's another week gone by, huh?
Well, there's things we can talk about, but I think what's interesting is how it's gone from 90 degrees to 50. I frantically got people to help me get air conditioners running, and then last night I said, I have to turn the heat on. I'm freezing.
No, did you really go with the heat?
Yes. Well, my bedroom is on the front of the house, which is on the water, or the water is across the street. So when that wind blows, let me tell you, it's cold.
Um,
Hi, Donna.
we got Steve,
Welcome
and
back.
first to join us tonight. Hello, hello, or at least the first to comment, I shouldn't say. We've got 13 people starting to populate the room.
Hi, Andy Calabrese.
Hey, Andy.
You'd be proud of me, Andy. I was working with Final Cut today.
Final cut.
Yes. I'm in the middle of making another video,
Oh,
and I will tell you it's with Bob Snyder on guitar.
I love Bob Snyder.
Oh, so very artsy thing that we did together.
Bob
It'll
Snyder.
take me a minute because it's so much, and I am such a perfectionist. It's ridiculous.
You a perfectionist? No.
Yeah, yeah.
Look at this, Mr. Dave Hanlon. Hey, Dave. I think Dave is quite familiar with our guest today because Dave and Ronnie France played together in the Apple Jazz Band.
My
See what
former-
Andy just did? You see what Andy just said?
Yeah, that's going to be a fun thing to watch. We're all looking forward to that.
The Primetime Funk video. Well, I guess if he mentioned Primetime Funk, we should sneak in the fact that our guest next week is a member of Primetime Funk, as is our guest this week.
Yeah,
Both.
it's Primetime Funk Week apparently.
We are going to have Ronnie back to back. Ronnie's back to back. Ronnie France tonight. Although I know you put him as Ron France on our
Well,
on
we
our
can
app.
ask him when we get a hold of him
I,
and we corner him. We can ask him if he likes to be called Ron or Ronnie.
or get this, Nancy, and I don't know if you saw my post from earlier today. We could also call him Rodney Krabs.
Rodney Krantz.
With crabs.
Crabs?
Like crabs. You ever have crabs?
Do I have to answer that?
I kind of set you up knowing what
You do
the-
mean king crab legs, right?
But we'll have to ask Ronnie about Rick's story last week about how he got that phone call from, and his son answered the phone, and Rick Montalbano, who was such a wonderful guest last week, said, "Who was it?" And his son Rick Jr. said, "The guy's Rodney Krabs." And Rodney Krabs, and of course, as it turned out, Rodney Krabs was in fact Ronnie France. So that was a fun little anecdote. Rick had a lot of nicknames that he threw out last week.
Yeah, it's very common in jazz for people to have nicknames for one another.
But yeah, exactly. Oh,
that's
but
just
I don't
the
think
thing.
so. Yeah, officially, Ronnie France, the outstanding bass player, our guest tonight. He'll join us in about 10 minutes, and then next Sunday, I know a lot of people have been asking, when are you going to have him on? Also, a Primetime Funk member, Mr. Ronnie Lee.
Yay!
Ronnie Lee joins us a week from tonight. And by the way, Nancy, here they come. You knew it was going to come. The comments on the new Nancy Kelly Do.
Listen, I couldn't go another week, so a friend of mine took care of me, and that's all we need to say.
Well, I mean,
Very safely, I might add.
that's okay. But you got Steve saying, anybody notice the new do? So I mean, it's you can't hide it. It's noticeable. And
Oh,
regardless, hey, look, regardless of how you got it cut, who cut it, it looks marvelous. Okay, unlike mine
I'm
is.
gonna do yours. I was thinking, I can't. I wish I could come over and like do your hair like mine in front, like so everybody could see it like that. I think it would work well.
No, if I were gonna have you cut my hair, I would make the drive out to Fairhaven, and I do tip well, I must say. So
I could use a tip
I,
right about.
well, I would not. No, I would make you come out. Listen, if it goes another 2 or 3 weeks, I might take you up on that offer. Who knows? We'll see. Good evening to Donna Pacini. Both of our regular Donnas are here.
Hi, Ted Rosenthal. How are you?
Wow, look at this. We've already got 25 people in here. We're only.
Oh, sorry. Must be. I used to say on stage at Sue Lynn's must be Johnny Carson. Nobody gets that anymore.
Did you see somebody on Facebook posted an old Sue Lynn's menu? Was it?
Oh, who was that?
Who was it? But
Oh, it was Pat DeSalvo, who also used to.
Who's celebrating a birthday today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When are we going to talk about the? Are we waiting for Ronnie, or are we going to address?
Well, by the way, hello to Jonathan Knapp, and hey, look at this! I've got my second. This is amazing doing a show like this. Now I've got my second haircut possibility.
Oh,
Ronnie France's lovely wife.
she really knows what she's doing.
Does she?
Oh God, yes.
Mary Jo. Okay, let's talk, Mary Jo. Okay. All right. Well, Nancy, you just may have lost your tip.
I'm. It's okay.
May have to go to Mary Jo. Yeah, no, Ronnie will be joining us in about 8 minutes. The great Ron France, bassist and a recording artist, who has recorded with some amazing people, most notably my co-host. And we won't dive into it now. We'll wait till.
Oh, we have lots of fun things to talk about. Yeah.
We do. This is an interesting comment. The most recent comment that came in. I'm guessing could be a family member or somebody you know. Marion Corey.
Marion is a friend and a fan, and she's very supportive. She comes to many of the engagements, and she was just talking about a year ago today. We did the Pleasant Beach restaurant, which is right here where I live in Fairhaven, and they canceled my gig there this year. Beautiful situation, just right on the bay. All the guys love playing the date with me because it's so pretty.
Oh, so
Pleasant nice.
Beach. Pleasant Beach is an actual venue.
Yes. Well, it's a I don't know, what do you call it? A bed and breakfast or a hotel or something.
Yeah. Well, can't wait till they open. Drove all around Fairhaven. Hopes to see you playing Rochester soon. And listen, I mean, I speak for everybody in this room that we are all hoping for live music to come back. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know when, but we, at least I feel, and I don't know how you feel, that when live music comes back, and we know it'll come back in a limited capacity, but I do think that there's such a demand for live music that, don't you think it's going to come back with like the roar of a lion, and people are going to be so.
Actually, I don't. I think that people are going to be cautious for a while, to be honest with you. I certainly am not interested in diving back into it.
Well, you're not going to have full club. You're not going to have full clubs, but I just think that.
But I think honestly, anyone that plays a wind instrument, which includes the voice,
right,
are potential threats to the audience. If they want to put we could get one of those plexiglass drum kit covers and cover the whole stage. But what? I don't know. No. I don't know. We'll get there. A friend of mine asked if my 443 gig was still on. I mean, it's on. It hasn't been canceled, but what we're doing is watching. We're watching to see, how things are going.
Now, Steve asked about this 4:43 gig. When is your next scheduled gig there? Can you tell
Oh,
us?
it's the last Wednesday. I'd have to pull my calendar up. I don't know the exact date.
The last Wednesday of this month?
Yes,
Okay, well,
but I think we're looking at July, not June.
yeah, I think there's a better chance
Yeah.
for July than for June. Hey, Cynthia, welcome. And William Barber, by the way, asking you if things are okay there.
Things are
And
great here. I mean, I'm happy as can be.
um, you know what? Cynthia is saying, let the funk chat begin. And we're going to do that in a few minutes. You know what? We only have a few minutes till Ronnie joins us. And Nancy and I talked before the show. And I think that, look, we can't totally ignore the fact that everywhere you look on the news right now, this has been a very uneasy, disturbing weekend in this country over the events of what happened in Minneapolis, and it has resulted in riots all over the country. In fact, in Syracuse, in fact, which has led to a curfew tonight in
And in
Onondaga.
Rochester, not far from where my daughter lives.
So we're only touching upon it for a moment or two because we didn't want to just completely not acknowledge that is. I mean, who'd have thought that, like, right now for the last 3 days, nobody's even really been talking about the fact that we are still in a pandemic. And yet it seems like the virus has taken a back seat to all of these protests, and it's hard to see cities being being destroyed. But
I know that many
people have a right to protest. And
yes, and I know there's many people who don't understand the violence. And in fact, I got unfriended by somebody last night who I mentioned to this person. I felt very sad that they didn't understand it, and I think there's a couple books that people could read for those of you
that's right, please,
that do not understand why there is violence or why there is. I mean, I know we're seeing a lot of, I think, people coming in from the outside. I think a lot of these protests are meant to be, they were not meant to be violent, but I think I think it's that, so another different of myself, it's that herd mentality where someone comes in and begins the agitation, and then other people, because they have so much agitation and anger in their hearts, it blows into something else.
Right.
But
yeah, tell us about these book recommendations.
Yeah, there's a couple books that I can suggest to any of you who may not be understanding what's going on, and for those of you that watch. The Daily Show, the tremendous talent Trevor Noah, he wrote a book called Born a Crime. Trevor Noah. It's a must-read. Must-read. I mean, this is going to help you understand what people are feeling. And another tremendous author that just changed my my life after reading this book, Ta-Nehisi Coates. Ta-Nehisi Coates. The book is called Between the World and Me. These both are must-reads. I strongly ask you, if you're feeling like you don't understand, you should read those, because I'm lucky enough to grow. I do an African American art form. I grew up very close with this community, and still am very close with this community. And I'm lucky to understand some things,
Yeah.
Lucky or unlucky, as you have it. But
I am. Wow. I'm. And again, those are amazing recommendations. And let's just hope and pray that even if the protests continue, they continue peacefully and in a non-violent way.
Well, we all hope that, but I I don't know.
No, we don't. We just don't know
I mean,
from
with so much going on, people
there.
are at the end of their wits. Some people don't have jobs. They have no food. They don't have cars. They can't get to a store. Don't get me going. This
I'm
is
not.
what we
No,
shouldn't
I'm
do.
not.
This show is supposed to be, you
And
know.
we're just about to bring. I know Ronnie will be joining us momentarily, but I'm looking in the chat room here, and I see Steve DePra say, "Hey, Eliana,"
Yes,
and
he's talking about Eliana T. Cobb,
yeah,
who was Jimmy's
that's
wife, and we
that's
lost Jimmy Cobb this.
when I see the comment, Jimmy died Sunday. Please call me. I just made the connection that was Jimmy's wife, and um, I mean, for those who don't know, we lost one of the most incredible musicians, not just drummers, the incredible Jimmy Cobb passing away last weekend. Jimmy was still recording for the Smoke Sessions label, I believe, sounding great. I never got to see Jimmy, never got to meet him. I never got to interview him. But Jimmy's recording.
I did meet him. I haven't worked with him, but I did meet him during my New York stay. But a legend, a legend,
A true legend. And if you're familiar with the album Kind of Blue, which is right up there among the seminal jazz albums.
Miles Davis, yeah, Kind of Blue.
Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Cannonball Adderley on that recording. Well, Jimmy Cobb was the last. He was the last remaining member of that incredible group that was still with us. And when I saw the news that Jimmy had passed away, just heartbreaking. But there's so much of Jimmy's music that people can still listen to and find. And anyway, Ileana, our thoughts to the entire Cobb family.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It's hard because we do have youngins coming up. But this music takes a life. It really takes a life to bring it to life.
It does. Oh,
it does. I mean, I've worked very hard, and I have miles and miles to go yet. It's a constant journey, but I think it's time to change the vibe here. And
yes, let's change the vibe and let us. Do we have a guest ready to join us?
Well, we do, and his name is Ron France, or how do you say it? Rodney.
Rodney Krabs?
I wonder if he knows about it. Let's ask him.
I don't know, but let's bring him on right now. Come on.
Let's ask him. Oh! He's going to sign in. Here he comes.
All right. Where is he? There he is.
Whose idea was it?
How do we address you, sir? Is it Ronnie France or do we go with Rodney Krabs? No.
That's a funny question. A lot of people ask me that, Eric.
I need a drink.
I get two questions most often. One is, how did Rodney Krabs come about? And then, of course, the other one is, how did you get so handsome? And of course, that I always answer with, well, I went to the Orville Kelly School of, Dynamics, and really he taught me how, to act and look like a gentleman. And so between Rick Montalbano and Orville, I've kind of, I get it together.
Now you're going to make me cry, Ron. I knew this was going to happen, man. So he's talking about my dad, who was at I guess, you hear about a stage mom. Well, he was a stage dad, and he was at every gig I ever did, and he carried my JBLs in right until he was 81 years old. Do you remember that, Ronnie?
And the guy was a true gentleman and just, so great to be around. And amazing that he had a daughter like Nancy. But I'm just saying, he was an awesome guy. And so are you, Nancy.
I must admit, Nancy, when he mentioned Orville Kelly, I said, okay, this has got to be connected to you. But I don't think in all the years we've known each other, you may have mentioned your dad to me in passing, but I never knew that was his first name, Orville Kelly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, he worked. His friends at work just called his name was Orville Paul. That's a name you never hear, but his friends called him Orv or OP.
Well, the only other Orville I think that a lot of people know is Redenbacher.
No, wasn't there a guy that invented
the Wright
a plane or something?
That's true. Excuse me, the Wright brothers. Sorry, how can I forget the Wright brothers?
Right. You realize how much you miss me now, right? Oh,
That's
this
right. Nancy's dad, I think, invented popcorn. I don't think it was
All right, we'll give him. Okay, we'll credit him with inventing popcorn.
He didn't invent pop music, I can tell you that much.
Oh yeah.
No, we will not address you as Rodney Krabs, although that was a fun story that Rick told last week about how when he first got the phone call, his son made it out to seem like it was Rodney. He said it so quickly he didn't realize it was Ronnie France. Not. Yeah.
And it's funny, a lot of people actually, because of that, still call me Rodney.
So. Is that true? No, come on.
Oh yeah.
Really?
You better watch out, Eric Cohen. You're in for it.
All right, I've had plenty of nicknames in my day, so it's all right.
Share some of them with us.
Well, Nancy, there's of course the true giver of nicknames was Danny D'Imperio.
Let's not.
Guess what?
You don't want to go there.
Wait a minute. Guess what? Just wait a second.
Oh my God.
Oh,
talk about sharing the screen. I mean, that you are just so with it, Nancy Kelly. And there we go. Danny made me wear that tie. That's not a tie I would have ever worn.
I don't believe that. Is that so? I don't believe that.
Danny used to call me Pine Top.
Yes, he did. And you will not, by the way, be mentioning what I was called.
We'll let that one go.
I don't care.
Yes,
so, tell
actually, though, I do love the fact that you affectionately, became known as just Beer.
Yeah. It's a musical, a beer.
Beer.
And I think,
Eric, you know who all those guys are, right, Eric?
Of course I do. And I was going to say, we're talking about you and your tie, and we're talking about Nancy and her quote unquote nickname. We're talking about Danny, who's standing behind you. But let's not forget that man to the far left. We all truly loved him. The late great Mr. Larry Arlotta.
So many stories.
I was hoping that you might have maybe a.
So between Larry and Danny, the two of them, but so Nancy, the story behind the Pine Top goes, of course,
there was a bass player named Pine Top.
Well, great bass players, there was Pine Top Perkins, and it was about the upright and and the top of the bass. But Danny called me Pine Top because, and don't go back to that picture, but back in those days, I had hair. And he used to come in and say, your head looks like a pine cone. He goes, I'm going to call you Pine Top.
Pine Top.
Pine Top, Dad.
But guess what we used to call you, my brother and I, because you had the original mullet. Like you had. Do you remember when you had a mullet? Like you had that hair?
And, in the day it wasn't called a mullet. It was just, the way your hair was.
That was the style of the day. Yeah.
But I used to call you Ron Bon Jovi.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
And then it just got shortened to Ron Bon.
Ron Bon. Oh, that's pretty good.
So we started with Rodney Krabs. We've gone to Pine Top. We've gone to Ron Bon Jovi. This is amazing.
It is good.
Anybody in the chat room have nicknames for Ronnie that you want to share?
No, that's all right. Eric, I got to say that both of you, but Eric, your voice, I just so miss you. As I listen to you, I think about FM 88.
Oh, thank you. Well,
I think if I had the wherewithal, I would just start, your own podcast with jazz music and your voice. And then, I could just have that play all day long. It would be the greatest.
Well, guess what, Ronnie? Your wish might come true, believe me, because I've thought about it. I've had enough people tell me, Eric, you should think about doing a jazz podcast and this and that. And I think that doing this show with Nancy has really, I've gotten the itch back to get back involved in jazz and in talking with people like yourself. We talked with Rick last week. We're going to chat with Ronnie Lee next week. There's jazz is still it's still happening. I mean, I know live jazz right now is not, but I mean, I still keep my pulse on jazz music. And when people come up to me still 3 years after I left WAER and people say, man, I miss your show. I miss your voice. I miss the B3 Bonanza. I'm going to find an outlet where I'm going to.
I think it'd be great.
Well, thank you. And that means a lot, sir, coming from you, I must say.
Nancy, you were talking a little bit about, starting up again and playing music again. And, I was thinking about that today. It's so difficult, isn't it? I mean, we're going through this thing where we're doing things virtually, right? Primetime Funk just finished a virtual. We did one of our originals called What You Gonna Do, which is very apropos for the situation that we're in today.
Very, yeah.
The lyrics go, what you gonna do when the world's on fire? Where are you gonna hide? But the thing is, we finished that video actually this afternoon. Andy Calabrese sort of wrapped up all the video editing.
He commented and said he just finished the video.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it was a blast. But Nancy, you'll agree, it's not the same. Right, we learned we're sort of exercising a new muscle. We're learning a new thing, but it's not the same as being out there.
Well, because music, no matter what kind of music it is it's a participatory art form. I mean, you give the love and you need the love back, which creates more love in the music. And it's a thing. I teach my students, I said, really the audience, really, they look at you like a cheap amusement ride.
I've been in a couple audiences. I don't recall that exact thing, but
I mean, they want to go where you are going at the moment. We call it in jazz, we call it the zone. And of course, for me, the zone means being one with creative source energy, because you go away, man. And when you're in a group, and I don't know whether you experience that. How many guys are in your group? 10 is a 10-piece band.
I think we got about 150 now in that band. There's a lot of guys.
Wow.
But I mean, do you ever have those moments where it just becomes one spirit, like just one soul? Or is there always that one guy that you just want to kick?
That would be me. But all the time, you and I both know we've been so fortunate to play with the greatest freaking players on the planet, right? And so we're so fortunate to have that night after night.
Oh,
right?
Yes, yeah.
Night after night.
Night after night. I barely even look at the audience anymore. I mean, I'm pulling a miles on them, man.
Yeah, though I gotta say, Nancy, to your credit, I mean, you are as much of a showman as you are a great vocalist. I mean, it's a show to come see you. It's the whole package.
Yep.
Right, which is what I always loved. I mean, you're right. You call it a cheap amusement ride, but the reality is, it's a show, and you have, when you hit that stage, you're on 110. The entire.
Well, not anymore. Now that I'm almost 70, I'm going about 35. But
No.
I doubt that.
But
I couldn't.
it's interesting.
No, I was just
Sorry,
saying, I
Eric.
could not agree with Ronnie more because, again, there are singers and then there are performers. And Nancy does not just sing the songs. Well, first of all, she emotes the songs, she feels the songs, but she also has such a way of interacting with her musicians, whether it be Rick and Jimmy and Dino or yourself or Larry Arlotta back in the day. But her interplay with her musicians and with people in the crowd and something that just might spur an idea in her head to tell a story. Cheers, yes. No, it just backs up your point that Nancy is.
What was it like? Tell me what it was like to put up with me.
Ronnie?
See, Nancy can actually ask me that question because she knows I'll never tell the truth.
I was talking to Dan DiPerio the other day, and he was calling me that name, and I said, I don't like that. He says, well, that's what everybody else calls you, and I said, they wouldn't dare.
Well, I'll tell you what it was like. So Eric, for starters,
Yeah.
And again, I'm humbled just to be here. But Nancy was. I was very fortunate to connect with Nancy when I did.
When did we connect? Finish your story, but I want to talk about that too.
So I would say it was probably around really 1990, 1989, 1990.
So it was after the Sulin thing. It was after one of my.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll tell you, you and Larry were doing a gig at down the street on East Genesee Street at Phoebe's. There was like a Phoebe's thing going on, and you were working with a bass player. He might have been from Atlantic City. He was a friend of Wilby's, and he left the band. And that's when Larry brought me into the band with Larry and Wilby and you. And I don't remember, Al was his name, the bass player?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Right. And so that's really about when it happened. But Eric, just to the point, Nancy introduced me to an entire world that I had only kind of dreamt of, to be quite honest with you.
Right.
The fact that I got to work with Nancy and Danny D'Imperio, and Nancy led me to Jeff Tyzik, and I went out and toured with Tyzik and Vizzuti, and Jeff introduced me to Doc Severinsen, who I then played with on and off for about 3 years. And these were all Nancy's mates from Amherst Records. If it wasn't for Nancy and her connections, I would have never been there. And quite honestly, Nancy, the 3 or 4 years that we spent together really gave me the foundation that I needed to go out and to work with those people. Right.
Wow.
Well, I don't feel like I was demanding, although I did expect certain things.
No, not demanding. And again, I've been so lucky, even Ronnie Lee is another just incredible influence, but it's not that you were demanding, is you were on fire every night. And so to go on stage with someone who plays that way every single night, it's not that it was demanding, but you had to perform at a level that was way up here.
It raises the bar for everyone else. Yeah.
So you call it demanding, call it whatever you want, but the reality is it was top shelf every single night. And if you weren't on it, you weren't going to last very long.
There's a truism.
Right? And demanding, but not really. Danny D'Imperio is another one. Danny is just, every single time he sits down at the drums, he is on 1,000%.
Yeah. And, it's musicians like that. Again, I grew up the son of a musician. Not that my dad has led a lot of dates in his time, but, musicians who bring it every night, night in and night out. Those are the people that make you better, and really show you what a work ethic is all about. The Nancys, the Dannys, and the list, goes on and on. And you've been fortunate to work with so many of them.
An interesting pandemic observation, and one thing that I'm really digging is that those of us that have dedicated our lives to music find ourselves doing music just for the love of it now, and it's wonderful.
Right.
It's wonderful. I was talking with my daughter Kelly last night. We were trying to determine when people first begun getting commissioned to play music. We thought it was maybe in some of the churches, the early churches. I don't know. But it was not always that way. I mean, you played music because you loved it. And I've been enjoying this because I don't feel like I have any pressure on me. There's nothing worse than knowing somebody's going to hand you a big check. And you better be worth that big check. And you go on stage like, it's like.
Well, and Nancy, we can go back. And of course, Eric, you've been around a while, but we can remember, of course, like anybody, when making ends meet was not easy to do, right? We spent many, many years trying to make ends meet, and it was rough. And so you and I both know it's like very nice now to be in a place where we can make music that just for the enjoyment of making music. But my heart bleeds for these young cats that are out there, that every club has shut down. All the venues are gone. I mean,
festivals not happening.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just, I'm looking at this going, these guys, including us, but these young guys, they're losing a whole year of their life, their livelihood, and they're trying to scramble to make things happen virtually.
And not only that, I find it hard. Making the videos I enjoy doing because I'm a techie and I just love it. But I find it hard to work on tunes, and I'm not as motivated as I was. I mean, because of to circle back to what we were saying, part of the joy in it is sharing it with people.
That's right.
Just sharing that musical experience. And so those kids are missing that, and they're missing being on the bandstand with the people that teach you that teach you the game, And
let's face it, there's a true joy in getting paid at the end of it, right?
Dan DePiro used to say, "You're gonna pay me and ruin it, man."
I mean, but the reality is that there's nothing better than having music as a career and being able to pay your bills and do the things you want to do and live, off of playing music, which we did for a long time. And Nancy,
we did. It's rare though that people make actually make a living now. I mean, very few people. It's down to a handful of people, aside from ones that are playing cruise ships or something. I don't know. I mean, in the real leagues, it's down. You look at the festivals, the same people are circulated over and over and over again. And those are the cats making money. I personally was having this conversation with somebody the other day, and it's so hard to get your foot even in that door. It's amazing. Thank God I redefined my life at one point for personal reasons, and I started teaching, and I'm comfortable, man. And I go and do my gigs. It's nice.
I love it.
Just want to remind folks who are just joining us, it's Time Out. I'm Eric Cohen. She's Nancy Kelly, our special guest, the great Mr. Ronnie Franson. And Ronnie, I have to tell you, there is one more nickname that has come up for you.
Oh, no.
And that's come from a gentleman who's joining us tonight from sunny here, but it's a little hotter where he is in Arizona. David DeLucia. I hope I'm saying your last name.
Oh, Dave DeLucia.
Oh, Dave DeLucia. I made it sound a little extra Italiano there, but do you remember what Larry Arlotta called you, Ron?
Oh no!
Apparently he does.
Larry had a number of names for me, trust me, but
Well, all right. Well, Dave DeLucia says Larry called Ronnie, and I won't ask really the origin of this. Francine?
oh yeah, yes, he did.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. Dave, I love you. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's watching us in Arizona. That's nice to have Dave.
By the way, Dave, one of fabulous vocalist, drummer, greatest guy on the planet, very close friend of all of ours and Larry's. And he wised up when he was quite a bit younger and decided to go where it's sunny all year round. But we miss him. But he was just a really great musician too.
There's a good little music scene. I play out in Tucson every now and then, in Phoenix. There's a music scene out. There's a jazz scene out there anyway.
Oh,
I thought you don't like the heat. I thought you don't like the heat.
I hate heat. I'm not that person.
It's a dry heat.
It's a dry heat, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, go on, Tucson.
I don't know about that. I'm happy. Today, I'm like happy. This is it. I'm a happy cat. But you are now escaping winters, I understand.
Yeah, tell us.
I'm starting to dig the scene down south. I'll just put it that way, man.
In what way?
So I'll say it's kind of an interesting thing. So I bought a house in Lauderdale area, and I'm hanging down, in Lauderdale and West Palm. And
been to Blue Jean Blues yet?
Oh yeah,
I played there many times.
Great club, man.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, so it's kind of an odd scene because there's some killing musicians who have all, of course, gravitated from up east, right? Northeast.
Did you meet Danny Berger yet?
Oh, as a matter of fact, I haven't met her, but I was supposed to go have lunch, but it didn't happen yet. But yeah, that's going to happen.
I'll hook you. You got to get hooked up with Paul Schuchek.
Yeah, so
I'll hook you up with some people.
There's a whole scene down there, which is great. And I'm kind of digging that. I am avoiding the ice cold winters, and I found a great little spot and a good music scene.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's a different music scene than it is here, Eric, right? It's
yeah.
But you kind of have to find it. It's hidden in a way. On the surface, there's a lot of general business gigs and people doing like karaoke gigs and that kind of stuff. But if you dig a little bit, you find these players who come from all over the world.
Oh yeah, they're there. Oh yes,
and they're there. And they're, they hang out and they play, and they're not doing it for money, Nancy, to your point, right? They have their own little scene. And I'm kind of like infiltrating that a little bit, which is pretty cool.
Now you're talking about the Fort Lauderdale area?
Yeah, between Lauderdale and West Palm. So all the way up, Deerfield, Boca. As a matter of fact, who was down there forever was Jimmy Cavallo.
Oh,
Pompano?
That's right where I am. I'm in Pompano.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I like it. I miss going down. I used to go down with Paulie Russo. He would, since Paulie passed away, Paulie and his wife would host me. And that would allow me to go, and I could stay a couple weeks and go tool around and do a whole bunch of gigs, a whole bunch of stuff. But he passed away, and I haven't had anywhere to stay. Although lately I've been staying with Susan Merritt in West Palm.
Yeah, and so I haven't been introduced to Susan, but I know who she is, and she's a pretty dynamic lady, right? Who does some great music.
She's very big on the scene down there.
I know, Fort Worth. In Lake Worth, that whole area. That's a great scene. Love those people.
Well, the publicist who did the publicity for my most recent CD is in West Palm, and he was the publicist for Dizzy's at Lincoln Center for years and years. So there's a lot of very connected people in the area.
I will do a shout out, and I don't know if you've met her, but you obviously would maybe know Lucia Shahadi.
Who?
Lucia. And just a quick shout out. So she's a friend of Ronnie Lee's, but she's good friends with Susan Merritt, and she hangs with that group, and she's introduced me to a lot of those people.
Oh, nice.
Fantastic.
Very nice.
My poor computer, I can't believe it. This is what I yell at my kids about, and my computer's only going to die on me over here.
No, it's not. um,
I'm going, how can you be that dumb? Here I
And then all of a sudden, Nancy
Hey.
will disappear. If you disappear, then I think the whole show will end.
a member of Hey,
As is our guest.
I'm
Hey,
going, how can you be that? There you go. Sorry, I'm moving it over to another thing.
hey, Ronnie.
Yes.
Speaking of Florida, I know it's a different part of Florida. Help me out. I can't believe I'm blanking on his last name. Jeff, the keyboardist who played all the Apple Jazz gigs.
Yes.
Jeff
Phillips.
Jeff Phillips.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's another guy. So Nancy, have you ever had a chance to play with Jeff?
I don't believe so.
So he is in so many ways like Calvin Custer reincarnate.
Oh, man.
Wow. That's high praise.
I'm telling you, so you get what I'm talking about. This cat can do the whole scene. He's unbelievable behind a vocalist, right? He's got all the sounds, all the stops. He knows all the tunes in any key and the way a singer would sing them. He's really a gem.
That's a gem right there. Where does he live now?
Huh?
Is he where does he live now?
He lives in Orlando, and he's a contemporary of Charlie Bertini's, right?
Right.
They work
Right.
together a lot.
Oh, that reminds me of something. I'll be right back. You guys chat. I want to show you something. Hold on. You guys
Where
chat.
on earth are you going?
I know. I know. I will do the shout out. I mentioned Charlie Bertini, which brings me, of course. And Nancy, you have certainly done the Apple Jazz show before. Yeah, sure. With you haven't done that show with Charlie Bertini? Never was? Well, we got to make it happen. I don't know if it'll ever happen again, but so that is, I've been working with my dear friend Dave Hanlon.
Well, Dave, come on, man. So how's that band going?
Oh my God.
I heard it's kicking, man.
That band is killing. Brian Scher on saxophone, Ed Vivenzio on keyboards, Jim O'Mahony on guitar. And that band is a blast, called Funky Jazz Band. Of course, now, Eric knows the Funky Jazz Band, but,
I'm very familiar with the Funky Jazz Band, but I just wanted to put up to the monitor here that I have. This is my gift from Charlie Bertini. This was the 30th anniversary, the very last Apple Jazz Festival that featured. It's 2 discs. It's on a DVD. There's 25 songs on here. There's a great photo inside.
I'll tell you what, man. Then that record that Ronnie Lee did that with those guys is killing, man.
Okay. That album, I believe, for the most part, is all takes from those 30 years.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Great. That's great.
You've been around a while when you can do like a DVD of your 30th anniversary.
I got to say, I mean, I was there for about, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 of those. And I mean, this band literally played together once a year, with the exception of the year that Frank brought you guys together for Jazz Fest. But oh my God, what a special environment that was at that pavilion.
Oh yeah. And Nancy, you'll love this. A funny bit about that. We rehearsed once, and after that rehearsal, it was the worst gig we ever played.
That's sort of like me and Eric before the show. We're going, wait, we should save this. Wait, we should save this.
Yeah. So after that, we said, all right, we're never rehearsing again. That's the end of that.
But God, you had some incredible guests for that over the years. I mean, Ronnie would join you, and of course you had Joe Whiting and Mark Doyle, and and of course you were a regular. Larry Arlotta was a part of the festival in the beginning, and of course Dave Hanlon on drums. And I think one of my favorite parts was always seeing oh my God, why am I the great trombone player?
Oh,
he would help me with the name. Oh my God,
Wycliffe Gordon? I don't know.
no.
Are you talking about somebody local?
Dick Chave. and Dick would be going lower on the trombone, lower and lower, and eventually the whole right, the whole he would just take the.
Eric loved it's the oldest trombone bit in the book. He's going lower.
Is it really? I didn't even.
And Eric
But
goes,
you know what? Every year I knew it was coming, but I still loved it though. You know. I know it's an old bit, but still.
We want you at every gig, Eric.
Sorry, I'm a sucker for bits. What can I say? But
that was always a great show.
It was. Oh, those were some great times, indeed. And you mentioned we touched on Amherst earlier, and obviously, Nancy was on Amherst, and then you reminded me that one of the other records that I used to play at WAER was a great recording from Doc Severinsen. And I'll be honest, I didn't know until earlier today when I was just looking over your bio. By the way, RonnieFrance.com. You can see the bands that Ronnie has played with, and there's information on Primetime Funk, Funky Jazz Band, and also Bass on Top as well. But yeah, you mentioned that after that you were the touring bassist for Doc, who was also on Nancy's Amherst label. What was that like, touring as the bassist for Doc's Tonight Show band for 3 years? You said.
So it was during a period after the Tonight Show.
Oh, okay.
When Doc was doing a series of what was called Artist in Residence.
Nice.
Right? And so,
okay.
As a matter of fact, he was the artist in residence for a number of Philharmonics, Buffalo Philharmonic.
So this connection was through Jeff then?
This was Jeff Tyzik, right?
Jeff Tyzik, right, okay.
Because you were on my session.
Yes, exactly. And so the tour that I would do with Doc over a course of 3 years, I would do he would do an artist in residence with a symphony orchestra. And in the band was Dave Mancini on drums, and of course the great Biff Hannon on piano.
Biff.
And so there was you say, what was it like? So a couple of things. Number one, Doc, another one of those guys, just Doc. We would have a rehearsal with the orchestra at maybe 2 p.m. Doc would be practicing in his room in the theater, starting at about 11 a.m.
Is that so?
Then we would rehearse the orchestra for like 2 or 3 hours, and then Doc would go back to his room and shed for another hour.
Man,
this guy, he's unbelievable. So to be with a talent like that, night after night was just one of the greatest experiences of my life. It was pretty awesome.
And I know one of the other great experiences of your life was being a part of Nancy's Singin' and Swingin' record.
Always.
Did you know that record? People here, it's so funny because we artists, we have. I like some of the more artistic stuff I've done, and yet that record is still one of the most popular records. Do you remember what cut you played on that, Ron?
I do. It's funny. I think I'm going to talk about one cut, but I think I was on Take the Last Boat to China.
Did you do Slow Boat to China with us?
Slow Boat to China, right?
Yeah.
I did Slow Boat to China, but I got to tell you, so Nancy, Nancy knows Eric, and I've always had an affinity for, from an early on, I was a funk bass player. Artists like Shaka Khan, just, I love that stuff. And so when Nancy chose to do Through the Fire on that album, and then just killed it, right? It was another, I still listen to that. As a matter of fact, Nancy, I put that on the other day. That the whole album is great, but I particularly always love.
But did you know that when I went in to do that record, I wanted that more like a bossa. I love taking tunes and changing their personality, not changing their makeup, but their personality, if you will. And Steve Gray came in, he just started playing it like that. like the
I know.
record. I said, all right, we got to go with this, man, because this is costing money.
But you threw a particular modulation into that tune, which made it just kind of explode at a certain. Yeah. I'm just saying, it was all good, very good.
Oh man,
I could still hit a few of those notes, but I've lost. I'm not afraid to say it. I've lost. I used to hit a high C. The last note in Slow Boat is a high C, and I can no longer hit that.
I'll give you a little tidbit on that record, Nance. I've never told you this, but when I was on WAER, you know how we'd have to make sure I'd have to finish my music for the top of the hour news. We'd have to we'd have to get into NPR news at 1 minute after the hour, and sometimes I would come up a little short, thinking I need a really short song here.
A short song or a short person.
So I'll tell you what, one of my I needed a short song, a short version of a song to get me to the top of the hour. And so you know where I'm going with this. Join is Jumpin' was always my go-to because I knew it was just under 2 minutes and it was just a perfect swinging number to take us right from the music to the news. So I
don't sing that anymore because no one can play it.
Well, all I know is that it was 1 minute and 50 seconds, and it helped me get to the news. That's all I'll say. So,
so Eric, I promised Nancy I would do a tune tonight.
Oh, are you kidding me? We were not going to let you leave the show unless you. Anytime we have a musician on, they are required to play something. So listen, man, you get as funky as you want to get,
or not.
It's not going to get funky tonight.
Oh, okay.
And I don't want to run over your hour.
Oh no, we run over all the time.
Okay.
No,
good.
we run over all the time. So, I mean, I hope you can maybe you can play a funky song after the one you're going to play right now. But do whatever you want. It's your show now.
Now,
yeah. All right, so I'm gonna, bear with me. I'm gonna do a tune. This is a song that I used to play with my dear friend, the great Mark Opani, and it was one of Mark's favorite songs.
Oh.
I thought I would do this tonight for Mark. Hopefully I won't completely make a mess of it, but we'll give it a shot. This is a Joe Beam tune called, of course you know this tune, How Insensitive.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Take it away, Ronnie.
All right, we'll give it a shot.
Okay. So,
Outstanding. Outstanding.
understanding.
Thank
Oh,
you so much.
Everybody needs to understand
wow.
why it is so important to tell a story when you play.
Oh,
That was beautiful, right?
thank you.
It was.
Really beautiful.
Yes, it was. I mean,
It's a beautiful story. If you know the story of Joe Beam, it's how insensitive. And I never really knew the story, but it's a story of a guy who um, breaks up with his lover because he finds someone new. And years later, he realizes how insensitive it was of him to treat her that way. And
mm,
so he writes this song to her, apologizing for his insensitivity.
wow.
I know. Leave it to Joe Beam, right?
Again,
Well,
the
but
stories behind the songs. I'm always fascinated by that. Whenever I hear people talk about, uh, exactly what the song means, and I never knew that until
well, you
now.
have to. I don't want to even play with someone if they don't know the lyrics. So, this is the,
Now,
it
Ronnie,
changes the way you play. It changes the way you play. There are so many cats out there that are very concerned with notes and the amount of notes. That
what-
are, as Dad used to say, chock full of notes.
now, Ronnie,
That's
don't,
beautiful.
don't put the bass away though, because I
What?
might just I might ask you to play like just 10, 15 seconds of something
You play
real
some
quick.
funk, man. Play
Ronnie,
play a little pop for us.
our guest next week and your compadre, Mr. Ronnie Lee, says hello, Nancy, Eric, and Ronnie. And your compadre in the funky jazz band, Dave Hanlon, says Ron France killing it as usual. And I was hoping. You put the electric away or no? See, I was kind of hoping.
Funk out my
I was
face. Yeah.
I was hoping that you could at least before we wrap give us a little bit of funk if possible. See, I'm privy. I'm partial to Jocko's Chicken in the beginning of Chicken, but I'm not going to ask you to do that on my account. But if you can just drop a little bit of funk to close us out this week, Ronnie. Oh, you're too kind. Mm, mm.
Woo! You know who started that, right? You know who started that whole popping thing, right?
Stanley Clark. Oh, Bootsy Collins.
Larry Graham?
Larry Graham.
Larry Graham.
Collins. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I still love it, man. My heart's still in the funk. I love it.
Oh, thank you for doing that, Ronnie.
Thank you for having me, Eric and Nancy. Love you
Well,
guys.
it's been our pleasure, and it's only 8:05, Nance, and there's a curfew in Onondaga County, so everybody should be inside, and they could still be listening to us. But I feel like we have to stop because I mean, like, how can we top what we just heard between the Jobim, between the funk, all the nicknames? I don't know. Your wife's doing well, Ronnie?
Everybody's good. Thank you so much, Eric. Hope
Okay.
you guys are all well. Look, Nancy, you look so healthy. You look awesome.
She's radiant.
I'm very well. I mean, like everyone else my age, I keep an eye on stuff.
Oh. And look who just popped into the room to say hello. We have
Kathy
Deacon-
Arlotta.
Kathy Arlotta.
And also another great talent and a friend of mine, Dina DeRose. You know her. I love the way she plays and sings. Absolutely love.
Ronnie, you're going to have to come back because I don't think in the entire nearly hour we've talked, I'm not even sure that you shared a Larry Arlotta story, but that would take up like an entire 4 hours, I think. So
I don't know if I have any that I can tell.
okay, well,
I have so many. We go, Larry and I'll just tell you a little bit about, because Nancy and Larry introduced me to Nancy. And
wow.
Larry was instrumental in so many ways for me. I was coming up, I was working with Jimmy Johns, and I were always, two peas in a pod. We were doing gigs with Phil Owens. We were playing all over town. And Larry brought Jimmy and I into playing some jazz gigs, and we were playing a regular Sunday and a regular Wednesday night. And from there, Larry eventually, Rick Kua left town. Rick Kua, who was another great influence of mine. Rick ended up going to Nashville. And when he went to Nashville, Larry asked me to join the band. He asked me to join the band Crack.
Yes. Oh, yes. Crack.
Did you go to New York when they played McKell's?
No, Rick was on that gig. And after that, he left for Nashville. And that's really where Larry and I started. We had a number of bands together. And then Larry and I hooked up with Ronnie. And we started a band called Flight. And that band eventually became Atlas.
Wow.
But a lot of it started with Larry and I working together.
Oh, wow.
I was so lucky when Rick left and went to Nashville and the phone rang. I think it was Rick who actually called me about taking his spot in Crack. And I was like, are you kidding? I was just astounded. And the fact that I'd be able to get to work with Larry was pretty amazing. And so...
we should say that the letters CRAC are people's last names.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it later took on a whole other meaning. But...
yeah, let's not go there, But...
so many stories. I mean, there's some amazing stories that we can,
I know.
talk about.
I'll tell you, though, between Crack and between Flight and between playing with Nancy and Doc Severinsen and Dave Hanlon and Ronnie Lee and the funky jazz band, the Apple, do you ever take time and kind of pinch yourself and say, man, I've been a pretty lucky guy these last, 30 plus years.
And you're being kind. So, honest to God, it's amazing. And Nancy knows how this feels, how lucky we do feel, right? And how fortunate we are. And the reality is, today, Ronnie and I have a band called Primetime Funk that is just freaking killing. And, in that band was the great Ralph Ortiz. And we love Ralph, and God bless Ralph. And I've been fortunate to kind of fill some of those shoes a little bit. But, again, so lucky. You're right, Eric.
Yeah.
So fortunate, right?
Well, and I'm sure that everybody's got the chance to share a bandstand with you. I've shared a bandstand with you, but I have a microphone in my hand. I'm just introducing the group. But Nancy's been so fortunate to, and we said this last week with Rick. I mean, I know that whenever Nancy Kelly did a gig and you were on the gig, and Nancy, you can speak to this. You had trust. You could trust a gig when you knew Ronnie France was on it.
God, Ronnie and I connected spiritually and musically, and we've been dear friends forever. We don't get to see each other very much because he's got his thing going and I got mine, and
right.
I mean, I don't even have a local band anymore, really. It's like I miss those days.
Well, let's all just hope and pray, and we know the day is going to come when Primetime Funk is going to be doing their thing in front of a crowd of people.
Next
Funky
Jazz Fest, man. The next Jazz Fest.
Absolutely.
You play in the Rochester one all the time, don't you?
We do, and the other thing that we do in Rochester that is awesome. Nancy, you were gonna. This was so, Eric. I don't know if you know this, but this year Nancy Kelly was to be inducted in the Rochester Music Hall of Fame.
I most certainly do, and I know it's going to happen next April now.
Next April.
So
Well deserved.
You'll be with me, Eric. You come with me, okay?
I'll be your date, sure.
You be my date.
Okay.
So the Primetime Funk Band has been the house band for the Rochester Music Hall of Fame since its inception. And so I've gotten to play with, the list is just unbelievable. Really, one of the highlights for me was I worked with David Clayton Thomas, and on that gig was Paul Schaefer, right? And it was just, there's been so many great stories. A couple of years ago we had Steve Gadd and Paul Simon. That has been an amazing experience. The Rochester Music Hall of Fame has been killing.
It is. I can't wait. It's going to be fun. They're inducting also Roy McCurdy, who I work with a lot in LA. And but I asked him, I said, look, man, I work with Roy. Can't we just hit together? He goes, no, you all got to have separate things. I said, oh, man.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a gas. I'm very excited. I'm not excited. This is weird. It's nice that I'm getting inducted. The hang is going to be awesome, man.
Well, you will love it. And I got to tell you, Nancy, you're in stellar company. The people that have been inducted into that, Ron Carter, Steve Gadd, the who's who in the list of jazz artists that have been inducted into that Hall of Fame. And for you to be one of those is an incredibly high honor. And these guys come, like I said, Steve Gadd was inducted. Paul Simon gave him the award.
And I heard that was like a surprise.
That's how high of an honor this is. This is a really.
I'm very thrilled. I'm so
really
thrilled.
great honor.
You got to remember, it's a funny thing, Ronnie. This business has a way sometimes of making you feel small.
Yeah.
So it's like when I heard this was going to be canceled because of the pandemic, I was like, oh man.
I know, me too.
I was really looking forward to this,
Yeah. I know.
But it's next April, and that's probably unfortunately will be the next time I see you because you and I are so busy with our own stuff.
It'll be great. We will have a blast. And I talked to Jimmy Johns about it, and I said, man, you need to bring your own drums, and you got to do the right thing, Dan.
Well, I count me in, Nance. I will gladly be there.
It'll be my day, yeah, absolutely.
See you to see you get inducted, and not only that, but to see Primetime Funk as the house band.
Just before we leave, I just want to give a shout out to the great trombonist Ron Wilkins, who just joined us, and he's a COVID survivor. God bless you, Ron.
Oh, wow. Yes, God bless. And in these crazy times, Ronnie, I just wish you and Mary Jo and all those close to you just safety and health, and we will get through all this, and live music will return someday, and I can't wait until when that day happens, and we have the Funky Jazz Band, and we have Primetime Funk, and we have the Nancy Kellys and the Ronnie Francis of the world who do their thing, not virtually, but they get to do it with a crowd. It's going to happen. We don't know when, but when it does, get ready, because there ain't nothing like live music.
Oh, I know.
Thank you, Eric.
By the way, Nancy, I'm happy to carry the PA anytime.
Oh, I don't even work a gig unless they have a PA anymore. I'm like, what? First of all.
I love you.
Man. Well, listen, thanks to Ron Wilkins, Ronnie Lee joining us again. Everybody in our chat room tonight, Dina DeRose and Steve DePra, and John Knapp and Mary Jo. Mary Jo, by the way, I'm going to seriously consider that offer. Your wife did offer to maybe even give me a haircut, which I desperately need. You're looking nicely groomed, I must say.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
It's
He's
nice
married. He married her.
Nice when
Oh,
you have
yeah.
a hairdresser in the house.
Yeah, definitely. So listen, this has been a blast. Thanks for playing the songs and telling the stories and just having some fun and letting us all get our minds in a good place on a Sunday night. That's what this show is all about. And we wish you nothing but the best,
No,
Ronnie.
we just want you to know that you are truly loved and appreciated.
And I so
Absolutely.
much appreciate that. You have no idea. Love you guys. Thank
We
you.
love you. Everybody have a great evening. Stay safe.
Stay safe. Next week, join us.
Stay safe.
And Ronnie Lee will be our guest 1 week from tonight at 7 o'clock on Time Out. Nancy Kelly and Eric Cohen. Our guest has been Ronnie France. And good night. God bless everyone. Take care. Thanks.
Bye, everybody. See ya.